The vanilla latte warmed my hands as I sat at our kitchen island, scrolling through emails on a crisp October morning. 23 years of marriage had settled into a comfortable rhythm. David off to his law firm by 7, me running my small event planning business from home, our empty nest quiet since our daughter Olivia had moved across the country for her residency program. Just a few more months of planning, I murmured to myself, reviewing the details for our 25th anniversary vow renewal. We'd been saving for years. $300,000 set aside for the celebration of the century. A destination renewal in Tuscany, 50 of our closest friends and family members, the wedding I'd always dreamed of but we couldn't afford when we were young. I smiled, imagining David's face when he saw me in the designer gown I'd secretly purchased. My phone buzzed with a text from Caroline. Coffee at 2? Need your wisdom on something. I texted back immediately, of course. The usual spot? Caroline and I had been best friends since we met at a PDA meeting 15 years ago. She knew everything about me. My hopes, my fears, my secrets. I'd helped her through her divorce 10 years earlier, and she'd been my rock when my mother passed away. Some friendships were sacred like that. Just as I was about to close my email, a notification popped up. David had accidentally left his Gmail logged in on our shared iPad. A message preview caught my eye. Missing you already. Last night was. From someone named Alexis. My stomach dropped. I told myself it was nothing, probably a colleague thanking him for dinner with clients. But something felt wrong. I clicked. What followed was a thread of emails spanning 8 months. Intimate details, plans for rendezvous, declarations of feelings that made me physically ill. Photos I couldn't unsee. Plans they'd made for weekends when I thought he was at conferences. My hands trembled as I forwarded the entire thread to my personal email, then deleted the sent email from David's outbox. Evidence secured. I sat in stunned silence until I heard his key in the door at 6 that evening. Hey babe, he called, setting down his briefcase. Traffic was a nightmare. Think I'll grab a shower before. Who's Alexis? My voice was eerily calm. The color drained from his face. What? Alexis. The woman you've been sleeping with for 8 months. I held up my phone with one of their email exchanges displayed. The one you took to the Poconos when you told me you were at the Chicago conference. Karen, he stumbled backward, loosening his tie. It's not what you think. Really? Because I think you've been having an affair, David. What followed was a pathetic display of excuses. He was lost. He was confused. It didn't mean anything. He still loved me. He never meant to hurt me. I cut him off. Save it. I want you to sleep in the guest room tonight. I need to think. That night, I cried until I had no tears left. 23 years of marriage. A lifetime of memories. All tainted now by the knowledge that the man I trusted had betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. The next morning I called Caroline. Are you home? I need you, I managed between sobs. I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said. When she arrived, I poured out everything, showed her the emails, recounted David's weak explanations. To my surprise, Caroline didn't seem shocked. What aren't you telling me? I asked, noticing her averted eyes. She took a deep breath. Karen, I knew. The room seemed to tilt. What do you mean you knew? I saw them together about 5 months ago at that new wine bar downtown. They didn't see me. I left immediately, but they were clearly together. My voice hardened. And you didn't think to tell me that my husband was cheating on me? I was trying to protect you. Caroline reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I thought maybe it was just a phase, something he'd get out of his system. I didn't want to blow up your marriage if it was just a stupid mistake. 5 months, Caroline. You've known for 5 months while I've been planning a $300,000 vow renewal. While I've been sleeping next to him, trusting him. You let me live a lie. I was going to tell you if it continued. I didn't want to be the one to break your heart. I stood up, something cold and hard forming where my heart used to be. But you were fine letting David do it? Get out. Karen, please. Get out of my house. Now. After she left, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the pieces of my shattered life. My husband had betrayed me with another woman. My best friend had betrayed me with her silence. And I had nothing but a house full of memories and a bank account with $300,000 earmarked for a celebration that would never happen. 3 days passed in a fog of tears and rage. David continued to sleep in the guest room, making half-hearted attempts at apologies that fell flat against the magnitude of his betrayal. Caroline called and texted incessantly, but I blocked her number. On the fourth morning, I woke with unusual clarity. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat on our back patio watching the sunrise. For 23 years, I had poured myself into this marriage. I had supported David through law school, postponed my own dreams of expanding my business to raise our daughter, compromised on everything from vacation destinations to kitchen renovations. And for what? To be betrayed not just by my husband but by the woman I trusted most in the world. I pulled out my laptop and logged into our joint bank account, the one with the $300,000 we'd painstakingly saved over 5 years for the vow renewal. David had insisted we keep it separate from our other accounts to avoid temptation, he'd said. How ironic. My finger hovered over the transfer button. David and I had equal access to the account, but he rarely checked it, trusting me with the renewal planning. I thought about all the things that money represented, the dreams, the plans, the future I thought we had. Then I thought about what it could represent instead: freedom, independence, a new beginning. I transferred the entire amount to my personal account. That afternoon I called a lawyer friend, not from David's firm, and scheduled an appointment for the following day. Then I started researching, reading about divorce proceedings, women-owned businesses, real estate investments, and financial planning for women starting over in their 40s. By evening, a plan was forming. Not just a plan for survival, but a plan for thriving. A plan that would show David and Caroline exactly what they had thrown away. When David came home, I was waiting in the kitchen. "We need to talk," I said. He nodded, loosening his tie, a nervous habit he'd had since we first met in college. Once I'd found it endearing. "I want a divorce," I said simply. "Karen, please, can't we at least try counseling? I made a terrible mistake, but 23 years. 23 years that you threw away for 8 months with Alexis," I interrupted. "I've already contacted a lawyer. I'd like you to move out by the end of the week." His face hardened. "And where exactly am I supposed to go?" I shrugged. "Perhaps Alexis has room at her place. Or Caroline might take you in, since she was so invested in protecting your affair." "What are you talking about?" "She knew David. She saw you together months ago and chose to stay silent. You both betrayed me." He had the decency to look stunned. "I had no idea she knew." "Well, now you both know that I know everything. I've transferred the renewal fund to my personal account. Consider it compensation for the years I gave you." His face flushed with anger. "You can't do that. That's our money." "Actually, I can. And I did. You're welcome to tell your lawyer all about how you were saving it to renew vows you've already broken." For the first time in our marriage, I saw fear in David's eyes. Fear and the dawning realization that he was no longer in control. The next day, after meeting with my lawyer, I drove to Caroline's condo. She opened the door with puffy eyes, clearly surprised to see me. "Karen, thank God. I've been so worried." I cut her off. "I'm not here for reconciliation. I'm here to tell you in person that our friendship is over. Please, you have to understand, I was trying to protect you." "No, Caroline. You were protecting yourself from an uncomfortable conversation. You were protecting David. The only person you weren't protecting was me." I held up my hand when she tried to interrupt. A real friend would have told me immediately, no matter how painful. "You robbed me of 5 months of my life. 5 months I spent loving a man who didn't deserve it and trusting a friend who betrayed me." Tears streamed down her face. "What can I do to make this right?" "Nothing. There's nothing you can do. I just wanted you to know that you've lost me forever. And it was entirely your choice." I walked away from Caroline's door feeling lighter than I had in days. The anger was still there, burning beneath the surface, but alongside it was something new: determination. Determination to build something from the ashes of my old life. That night, I sat at my dining room table surrounded by notes and plans. The $300,000 that had once represented a celebration of my marriage would now fund my renaissance. Part of me wondered if this was all about revenge, making David and Caroline regret what they'd done. But as I outlined my plans for the future, I realized this was about something much more important: reclaiming my power and creating a life that was truly mine. David moved out 3 days later, taking only his clothes and personal items. He tried to argue about the money, even threatened to contest it in the divorce, but my lawyer had been clear. Given the circumstances of our separation and the nature of the joint account, I had every right to transfer the funds. "You'll regret this," he said as he loaded the last box into his car. "When the dust settles and you're alone, you'll wish you'd been more reasonable." I leaned against the doorframe. I'd rather be alone than with someone I can't trust. After he drove away, I walked through our house. The house we bought 15 years ago when his career was taking off and we finally had financial stability. Every room held memories, some beautiful, some now painful. This place that had once been my sanctuary now felt like a museum of betrayal. That's when I made my second big decision. I would sell the house. The real estate market in our area was hot, and our mortgage was mostly paid off. Another significant sum to add to my fresh start fund. 2 weeks later, as I was sorting through photos to decide what to keep and what to discard, my doorbell rang. Caroline stood on my porch, clutching a large envelope. "Just hear me out," she said before I could close the door. "Then I'll go and never bother you again if that's what you want." Against my better judgment, I let her in. "These are all the texts and emails between David and me from the past 5 months, she said, placing the envelope on the coffee table. "I thought you should see them." I stared at the envelope. "Why would I want to read your conversations with my soon-to-be ex-husband?" "Because you deserve to know the whole truth." After I saw them together, I confronted David. I told him he needed to end it or I would tell you. He swore to me he would break it off with her. She took a deep breath. I checked in with him every few weeks. He kept telling me it was over, that he'd made a mistake and was fully committed to you and your vow renewal. I opened the envelope with trembling hands and quickly scanned the exchanges. David repeatedly assuring Caroline that the affair was over. Caroline threatening to tell me if he didn't end it. The final text from Caroline: "I'm telling Karen on Monday. I can't live with this lie anymore." The date of that text was 2 days before I discovered the emails. I looked up at Caroline, confusion mixing with the anger that had sustained me for weeks. "Why didn't you just tell me from the beginning?" "Because I was a coward," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. "I told myself I was protecting you, but the truth is I was terrified of losing you. I knew how much you loved him, how much you believed in your marriage. I thought if he ended it, you would never have to know and wouldn't get hurt." She wiped away a tear. "It was the biggest mistake of my life, and I'll regret it forever." Part of me wanted to forgive her, to reclaim the friendship that had been my support system for 15 years. But the damage was done. Trust, once broken, was nearly impossible to rebuild. "Thank you for showing me these," I said, handing back the envelope. "But it doesn't change anything. You should have told me immediately. Our friendship is over, Caroline." After she left, I sat in my empty living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes. For a moment, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of everything I had lost. Then I straightened my shoulders and returned to packing. The next day, I met with a financial advisor recommended by my lawyer. "You're in a surprisingly strong position," she told me after reviewing my finances. "The house will sell for at least $750,000 in this market. After paying off the remaining mortgage, you're looking at about $600,000. Add that to the $300,000 you already have, and you've got a solid foundation for your next chapter." "I want to invest in myself," I said firmly. "I've spent too many years investing in other people." She smiled. "Then let's make a plan that does exactly that." We spent the next 2 hours outlining an investment strategy. A portion for retirement, a portion for a more modest new home, and a significant chunk to expand my event planning business into new territory. As I drove home, my phone rang, David's name flashing on the car display. After a moment's hesitation, I answered on speaker. "Karen, we need to talk about this money situation," he began without preamble. "My lawyer says." "I don't care what your lawyer says," I interrupted. "My lawyer says I'm entitled to it, especially considering the circumstances. This vindictive behavior isn't like you, he said, his voice softening to the tone he used when he wanted to manipulate me. The Karen I know is reasonable and fair. The David I knew was faithful and honest, I countered. I guess we were both wrong about who we married. The house sold within a week for $780,000, above asking price. As I signed the final papers, I felt as though I was signing away my old life. But instead of sadness, I felt a mounting excitement. For the first time in 23 years, every decision was mine alone to make. Every dollar was mine to spend or save. Every dream was mine to pursue. I was finally free. I found a sleek, modern condo in the Arts District downtown, the opposite of our traditional suburban home. Floor-to-ceiling windows, hardwood floors, and an open-concept layout that seemed to mirror my new open future. At $350,000, it was a significant investment but well within my budget. I furnished it minimally, buying only pieces that spoke to me rather than worrying about what matched or what David would prefer. A bold red sectional, an abstract painting by a local artist, a dining table made from reclaimed wood that seated just four, perfect for the new intimate life I was building. With my housing settled, I turned my attention to my business. 4 years I'd run Milestone Moments, a small event planning company specializing in upscale parties and corporate events. I'd kept it deliberately small while supporting David's career and raising Olivia, but I'd always dreamed of expansion. Now, with nearly $550,000 remaining from my Fresh Start fund, I had the capital to make that dream a reality. I hired a business consultant who specialized in women-owned businesses. Together, we crafted a plan to rebrand and expand Milestone Moments into Phoenix Events, a full-service planning and production company specializing in transformative celebrations. Your story is your strength, my consultant, Zoe, told me. You literally rose from the ashes of a broken marriage to build something new. That's what Phoenix Events will do for clients. Help them transform ordinary milestones into extraordinary new beginnings. We leased a small but elegant office space in a historic building downtown. I hired 2 full-time event coordinators and contracted with a network of vendors who shared my vision for creating meaningful, personalized events. The first 3 months were exhausting but exhilarating. I worked 14-hour days, pouring myself into every aspect of the business. When I wasn't meeting with clients or coordinating events, I was taking online courses in digital marketing and financial management for small businesses. The work kept me too busy to dwell on my losses, but occasionally, in the quiet hours of the night, loneliness would creep in. I'd reach for my phone to text Caroline about a difficult client or an exciting new contract, only to remember our friendship was over. Or I'd come home excited about a business victory with no one to share it with. Olivia called regularly from Seattle, concerned about the rapid changes in my life. "Mom, I'm worried you're doing too much too fast," she said during one of our Sunday calls. "The divorce isn't even finalized yet." "I'm not waiting for a piece of paper to start living my life," I told her. "Besides, throwing myself into Phoenix is the best therapy I could ask for. Dad says you've lost your mind, that you stole his money and refused counseling." I laughed without humor. Of course that's his version. Did he mention the 8-month affair? Or the fact that his best friend's wife knew about it and kept it from me? "He told me it was just a few times, that he made a mistake and you wouldn't forgive him," she admitted. "I have the emails, Olivia. I can forward them to you if you want the truth." "No, God, please don't," she said quickly. "I believe you. It's hard seeing you both so hurt and knowing my family will never be the same." "We're still your family," I assured her. "Just reconfigured. And sometimes, honey, things need to break completely before they can become something better." That night I scrolled through social media before bed. Something I rarely had time for these days. Caroline had posted photos from a charity gala she'd attended, with David. The caption read, "Supporting old friends through difficult times. #friends stick together." The betrayal hit me anew. Not only had they both deceived me, but now they were publicly aligning themselves against me. For a moment, the old pain threatened to overwhelm me. Then I noticed something in the photos, the strained smiles, the awkward postures. They looked miserable. I closed the app and picked up the business book on my nightstand instead. Let them have each other, I thought. I have something better. The following week, Phoenix Events secured its biggest contract yet. A milestone anniversary celebration for a prominent tech company. The budget was substantial, the client list impressive, and the creative direction entirely in my hands. As I presented my vision to the company's board, I felt a confidence I hadn't experienced in years. This wasn't Karen the supportive wife or Karen the betrayed woman. This was Karen the business owner, Karen the visionary, a woman standing entirely on her own merits. Your passion is evident, the CEO told me after I'd finished. That's what sold us. You understand that this isn't just a party. It's a statement about who we are and where we're going. As I walked back to my office, his words resonated with me. Phoenix Events wasn't just my business. It was my statement about who I was becoming and where I was going. For the first time since discovering David's betrayal, I felt genuinely excited about the future. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had transformed into something productive, a driving force pushing me toward a life I might never have discovered otherwise. That evening, I treated myself to dinner at an upscale restaurant I'd always wanted to try but David had dismissed as pretentious. I sat alone at a table for one, ordered exactly what I wanted, and savored every bite without having to consider anyone else's preferences. Halfway through my meal, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the restaurant's window. Cheeks flushed with excitement, eyes bright with purpose. I hardly recognized myself. The woman looking back at me wasn't defined by betrayal anymore. She was defined by courage, resilience, and possibility. 6 months after David moved out, Phoenix Events had established itself as one of the premier event planning companies in the city. We'd executed 15 major events, received glowing reviews, and had bookings scheduled for the next 8 months. I developed a reputation for transforming ordinary occasions into extraordinary experiences, particularly for women celebrating new chapters in their lives. Divorce parties, career milestones, empty nest celebrations. I specialized in helping women embrace change with style and meaning. My personal transformation had been equally dramatic. I'd lost 15 pounds simply from the stress and constant movement of entrepreneurship. I'd cut my shoulder-length brown hair into a sleek bob with honey gold highlights. My conservative wardrobe had been replaced with bold colors and contemporary silhouettes that reflected my new confidence. The divorce was finalized with surprising ease. David, perhaps recognizing the damage to his reputation if the details of his affair became public, agreed to my terms with minimal fight. We divided our remaining assets, and I kept the $300,000 with no further contest. I was standing in my office reviewing design boards for an upcoming event, when my assistant knocked on the door. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "She doesn't have an appointment, but she's insistent." "A Caroline Mitchell." My stomach tightened. "Tell her I'm in a meeting." I tried, but she says she'll wait as long as it takes. With a sigh I nodded. "Send her in." Caroline entered, looking significantly different from when I'd last seen her. The polished, put-together woman I'd known for 15 years appeared haggard and stressed. "You look amazing," she said, taking in my transformation. "I almost didn't recognize you." "What do you want, Caroline?" I kept my tone businesslike. She sat in the chair across from my desk without being invited. "I heard about your company's success. The entire social circle is talking about it. I doubt you came here to congratulate me." "No." She twisted her hands in her lap. "I came to apologize again and to ask for your help." I raised an eyebrow. "My help? After everything that happened with you and David, my interior design business has suffered. Several clients canceled when they heard what happened. Most of them were mutual friends who took your side." "I wasn't aware there were sides to take," I said coolly. "Just truth and lies." She flinched. "I deserve that. But I'm struggling, Karen. I've lost nearly half my clients, and I'm behind on my mortgage. I was hoping maybe Phoenix could use an interior design consultant? Or you could recommend me to some of your clients." The irony wasn't lost on me. Caroline, who had once held all the power in our relationship, the knowledge of David's affair that she'd chosen to withhold, was now asking for my help. "You're asking me for a professional favor after you betrayed me both personally and professionally?" I leaned forward. You do understand that trust is the foundation of any business relationship, right? I made a terrible mistake, she whispered. I've paid for it every day since. David is miserable too, you know. The affair ended the day you found out, and Alexis has moved on to someone else. He's drinking too much, his work is suffering. He misses you. I don't care, I said, surprised to discover it was true. David's problems are his own, just as yours are yours. I'm not responsible for either of you anymore. So that's it? Years of friendship mean nothing. They meant everything to me, I corrected her. That's why your betrayal hurt so deeply. You can't burn a bridge and then complain about not being able to cross the river, Caroline. After she left, I stood at my office window overlooking the vibrant downtown street below. I'd expected to feel satisfaction at seeing Caroline struggle, at knowing David was miserable without me. Instead, I felt something quieter but more powerful: indifference. Their problems no longer affected me. Their opinions no longer mattered. I had built something that was entirely mine, and their approval or disapproval had become irrelevant. Later that week, Phoenix Events was featured in a prominent business magazine highlighting female entrepreneurs who had reinvented themselves after 40. The article told my story, not just the professional transformation but the personal one as well. Karen Stevens turned personal betrayal into professional triumph. The article began. After discovering her husband's infidelity and her best friend's complicity in keeping it secret, Stevens used her $300,000 wedding renewal fund to launch Phoenix Events, now one of the city's fastest-growing event planning companies. The piece included photos of me in my elegant office and at a recent gala we'd planned. It detailed my business philosophy and the rapid success of Phoenix Events. The final paragraph quoted me directly. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead to the best version of yourself. I'm not bitter about the betrayal anymore. I'm grateful for the freedom it ultimately gave me to pursue my own dreams without compromise. The morning the article was published, my phone buzzed continuously with notifications. Friends, acquaintances, and former clients sending messages of support and admiration. Several new client inquiries came through our website. And one text from David. Congratulations on your success. I always knew you were capable of amazing things. I just wish I hadn't been too blind to appreciate them, and you when I had the chance. I read his message twice, then deleted it without responding. His regret was no longer my concern. That evening, I hosted a small celebration for my Phoenix Events team at my condo. As we toasted our success and the promising future ahead, I gazed around at these new relationships built on mutual respect and shared vision. This was my revenge, not destroying David and Caroline, but building something so beautiful and fulfilling that their absence from my life felt like a gift rather than a loss. 1 year after discovering David's affair, I stood at the entrance of the grand ballroom at the Langham Hotel, watching as guests arrived for Phoenix Events' anniversary celebration. We'd combined a showcase of our work with a fundraiser for a women's entrepreneurship program I'd become passionate about supporting. The space had been transformed into an enchanted garden, with cascading floral installations, twinkling lights, and interactive elements that told the story of transformation and growth. It was everything I envisioned Phoenix Events to be: elegant, meaningful, and slightly magical. Miss Stevens. A young server approached with a glass of champagne. A gentleman at the bar asked me to give you this. He said you'd know who it was from. I glanced toward the bar and saw David, dressed in an impeccable suit, raising his glass to me from across the room. I accepted the champagne but didn't return the gesture. Instead, I handed the glass to my assistant. Please donate this to anyone who needs a refill, I said. And if that gentleman approaches me, I'd appreciate a rescue within 5 minutes. I continued greeting guests and potential clients, intentionally circulating away from the bar area. But eventually, David managed to intercept me between conversations. You've outdone yourself, he said, gesturing to the spectacular space around us. This is incredible, Karen. Thank you. I kept my tone polite but distant. Are you here as a guest of someone? He looked momentarily uncomfortable. I bought a ticket to the fundraiser. It's a good cause. I nodded. It is. If you'll excuse me, I see a client I need to speak with. He touched my arm lightly. Karen, wait. Can we talk? Just for a minute. Against my better judgment, I allowed him to lead me to a quieter corner of the room. I miss you, he said without preamble. I've made the biggest mistake of my life, and I've spent every day since regretting it. That's unfortunate for you, I said evenly. The divorce was a wake-up call. I've been in therapy really working on myself. I know now why I sabotaged our marriage, my insecurities, my fear of getting older, my need for validation. He took a deep breath. I wonder if you'd consider getting dinner sometime? Just to talk. A year ago, these words might have weakened my resolve. 6 months ago, they might have triggered anger. But standing there in the midst of my creation, surrounded by the fruits of my independence, they evoked only compassion mixed with firm resolve. No, David. I wouldn't. I met his gaze directly. I wish you well on your journey of self-improvement. I truly do. But my life has moved in a different direction, and I have no desire to look backward. Is there someone else? He asked, a flash of jealousy crossing his features. I laughed softly. That's the wrong question. The right question is whether there's something else, and the answer is yes. I have a thriving business, a supportive community, and a relationship with myself that's stronger than it's ever been. That's more than enough. Before he could respond, my assistant appeared at my side. Miss Stevens, the mayor has arrived and is asking to speak with you. Thank you, Jess. I turned back to David. Goodbye, David. Enjoy the event. As I walked away, I felt his eyes on me but didn't look back. There was nothing there for me anymore. The evening was a remarkable success. Phoenix Events secured 3 new major clients. The fundraiser exceeded its goal by 30%, and my speech about transformation and resilience received a standing ovation. Near the end of the night, I stepped outside onto the hotel's terrace for a moment of quiet reflection. The city lights sparkled below, and a cool breeze carried the scent of the nearby gardens. Quite a view, said a deep voice beside me. I turned to see Mark Gonzalez, the architect whose firm had recently partnered with Phoenix on a corporate event space design. We'd worked closely together over the past 3 months and developed an easy professional rapport. It is, I agreed. Sometimes I can't believe this is my life now. The article about you was inspiring, he said. Not many people could turn betrayal into such spectacular success. It wasn't about revenge, I clarified. At least not entirely. It was about finally recognizing my own worth and potential. He smiled. That's what made it inspiring. Revenge motivates for a season. Self-discovery drives you for a lifetime. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city below. Would you be interested in dinner next week? He asked suddenly. Not for business. Just dinner. I studied him thoughtfully. Mark was intelligent, creative, and by any objective standard attractive. Under different circumstances, I might have been interested. But the past year had taught me something crucial about myself. I valued my independence too much to rush into anything new. I'm flattered, I said honestly, but I'm not ready for that step yet. I'm still enjoying discovering who I am on my own. Instead of disappointment, his expression showed respect. I understand completely. The invitation remains open, whenever or if ever you're ready. As he excused himself to rejoin the party, I remained on the terrace, savoring the moment of choice, the freedom to say yes or no based solely on my own needs and desires. 1 year ago, I had been a woman defined by betrayal, burning with the need for revenge. Now I was simply Karen Stevens, business owner, mentor, friend, and architect of my own happiness. The $300,000 that had once represented a celebration of my past had instead funded the foundation of my future. The betrayal that had nearly broken me had ultimately freed me. As I returned to the ballroom to close out the evening, I caught a glimpse of myself in a decorative mirror. Confident, radiant, complete in myself. The reflection showed a woman who had not just survived betrayal, but had alchemized it into gold. This was my new life. Not perfect, sometimes lonely, but authentically mine. And that made it more precious than anything I had lost. At the end of the night, after the last guest had departed and my team had started the breakdown process, I walked through the empty ballroom, taking in the fading beauty of our creation. Tomorrow, the space would return to a blank canvas for someone else's vision. That was the nature of my business, creating beautiful, transformative moments that eventually gave way to new beginnings. It was also, I realized, the nature of life itself. The betrayal had been just one chapter. The revenge had been another. But the story continued with countless blank pages still ahead, waiting for me to fill them with whatever I chose. And for the first time in my life, I was writing that story entirely for myself.